So one of the biggest things, I mean, the car scratching and stuff like that is difficult, but one of the biggest difficulties is the technological problems, like the problems with devices, with computers breaking. We've had 3 computers crushed and destroyed twice. People came into the unit and attached an Android to the Windows computer, and you could tell because the Android left evidence when it was plugged in. They've monitored the computer networks, they've monitored our phones, and it's the attacks have gotten progressively more complex and advanced, and they're using my defenses to better their attack techniques, and then they join together in a group and then they attack you again. There's no way I can compete with that, so I just quit using computers, because they've got tons of friends and they all help out. Their computer attacks are so advanced now, and their phone attacks keep advancing as well. For example, there are several things I talked about in another video about thumbnails, and I talked about they're synchronizing a phone. Well, these behaviors, they'll see what I'm doing, so I'll take a screenshot of something and they'll see what I'm doing, and then they'll stop that, they'll change it, and then they'll change the behavior until them signals or them hints aren't there anymore. They're still attacking the phone because the phone gets hot, and I can tell that someone's using it because of the way the phone's behaving. There's something abnormal going on. But they've modified their attacks by watching my response, and then they get rid of the hints so that I can't see what they're doing. And this is what and then they're going to take these attacks and they're going to use them on other people, and the other people will have no idea that they're in the phone. They'll have no idea that they're in the computer. Foofly is relentless. He's like a leech. He's got a psychological problem. There's something wrong with him, and he enjoys it. He enjoys hurting people. He enjoys accomplishing a task. It's not, he gets pleasure out of it for some sick reason. It's psychotic in my opinion, and it's completely antisocial. But everybody around him supports it, and his church supports it because they're utilizing this skill. In the video I made, Anglicans love owning property, I left a whole bunch of links to a guy named Rufus Black, and Rufus Black is interested in all this stuff too. He was a strategic advisor to Tony Abbott, and he's all into metadata retention and all this, cyberbullying and cyber terrorism and attacks. And what they're doing is they're getting closer and closer to the point where you won't even know that they're in your machine. When they attacked our computers before, the only reason I knew is because I knew the computers really well, and I knew something was wrong, and then I knew that they were touching files that I wasn't touching, and I knew that they were getting underneath the firewall. I would shut the firewall off, and still they were accessing files, and still they were accessing the machine and changing file system attributes. So this technology is very advanced, and this is a government level technology, and there's no reason why a church individual or student like Foolfully should have that, or any of his friends. They're relentless and they won't stop. Foolfully is like a leech, and so are all his friends that are helping him. The thing that they do is they attack, and they watch, and they push, and they push, and they push, and then they watch. And when they think they see cracks approaching, their stress marks approaching, coming up to the surface in their target, then they hit harder and they push more. When something finally erupts, like say an argument, like say we're stressed out and it's really bothering me what's going on or whatever, or not being able to use computers, or not being able to type, or not write in my journal when it bothers me, and pardon me, when things are, arguments are becoming more and more frequent between me and my partner, they'll keep pressing, and then finally usually what happens is there's a blowout, or the pressure valve goes, right, and you have an argument. Well, everything goes quiet. Everything's silent in the building. It's almost like they've been waiting for it, pushing, waiting for it. And then boom, it pops, and everybody sits there and listens, quiet, silent. It's almost like you can hear their grins. It's really weird. Like right now, tonight is odd. Foolfully's up, I can hear him, but he's really, really quiet. And he's not, all week he would get up, walk around, and then his baby would wake up, almost like he's like pinching his baby to give an excuse that he's up, to justify deniability. These Anglicans are super big fans of deniability. they lie, and it's all for deniability. So he would do that, but it's quiet tonight because my partner and I had an argument, and the whole building went silent after that argument, and I would hear people walking by, real quiet and real soft, real slow, trying to get an earful of what we're saying, and it's always like that every single time. The path is only less than a meter away from our wall. That's why I have this microphone and the earplugs, because I'm trying to whisper and talk quiet, because the walls are super paper thin. All it is a little tiny fiberboard, so anybody walking by can listen. Now, even when we're trying to be quiet, even before when we were trying to be quiet, they would have information that they shouldn't have had. We'd be upstairs talking private, whispering in our room, and they would they would act in a way that would indicate or hint that they had overheard the conversation and were changing their behavior accordingly. So I mean, either they have, you know, super awesome hearing where they can hear my every dialogue, or they're monitoring some other way with like a high performance unidimensional one, like a microphone, or with other methods. For example, going into group policy and monitoring the video or the audio of a Windows laptop remotely. So, troubling. Another thing too is that I've said this before, they utilize the kids, and this is really, really disturbing, because they use their kids to, you know, behave in a certain way. For example, I was looking out the window one day, watching out the window, and this is a new person from that moved in this year to go to school, a new student. So she was with her friend, and they were like putting up laundry or whatever, and I was looking out the window, and she got one of the kids to yell out really loud, "Why you staring? Why you staring?" And looking up at our unit, right? And there was nobody there. There's no reason for that kid to say that, and especially when the kid's like looking at my unit. And then the kid goes, starts out like, "Hello, hello," waving, and then the kid goes, "Why you staring? Why you staring?" And then I wasn't watching the kid, I was looking at the parent, and the adults were giggling and smiling, and they turned their back to our window. So it's almost like they tell their kid to say something, and then the kid says something. And it's almost like, it's almost like bullying through their kid. They're too cowardly to come to me and say it, so they get their kid to say it, and then they deny it and say, "Oh my God, you're messed up. How could you say that?" But when you see them whisper something to the kid, and then you see the kid act in a way that's really strange, and I mean, what 2-year-old kid, what 3-year-old kid says that? Or 5-year-old kid? What 5-year-old kid says that? Talks to the air like that? I don't know any. And then the parents, are standing there, you know, watching or talking to each other, giggling to each other with their back turned to you, putting up whatever. Another time, the Asian guy that moved over to the other building, friends with Das Vile from Indonesia, his kid came out, stood on the sidewalk. There was nobody there. There was nobody in that direction. They stood on the sidewalk, like crouched down, and like put the kid put his hands on his knees, screamed as loud as he could, "Go away! Go away!" So that's fine. But the kid stood like right by our door, and then he ran back real fast. Remember the bully I was talking about, the guy that I had a problem with? The kid ran to her, the guy's wife. So I mean, if I say something, then I look like a flake. And if I don't say nothing, my conscience bothers me, because what happens if these people are using their kids? And that same guy I had a problem with, I saw him doing some really bad behavior with one of the kids here, and it really, really troubled me. And then ever since then, there's been all these things that they've been trying to do, all these rumors starting, and all these bad behaviors, like the pointing at my door from Begalint, and a whole bunch of other things that went on, that were very unnerving and very dishonorable behavior in my view. So yeah, so I mean, it's right in agreement with, like, for example, there was an AP, an access point, that of course, well, it's just all in fun, but there was an access point, and someone named the access point in capital letters, "Go away, neighbor." Well, fine, that's fine. But if the people living here were under this constant, picking every day, this constant picking and constant whatever attacks with the computers and all that, and then they were seeing this behavior like, "Go away, why are you staring? Go away." And then they look on their access point, and there's an access point that says, "Go away, neighbor." Well, nothing is being done and nothing is being said. They're not doing anything wrong, are they? But it's implied, in my opinion, it's implied that the people aren't welcome. And if you are a sensitive type of person, or a person that was easily injured, or easily hurt, like emotionally or psychologically, something like that would be very hurtful, and it would hurt you inside. And the fact that they giggle about it, and that they joke, and that they stick together in their little gang and groups is really disturbing. And they do it all the time, and it gets worse and worse and worse. They're like children in a sandbox. They're like bad kids in a sandbox, bad, spoiled, rotten kids that weren't disciplined properly.